Welcome back to Finn vs. History. As ever, sat beside me is Horatio Gould.
Hello.
A man whose forehead is a portal to the ancient world. Which is
ever-growing.
An ever-growing portal. Terrifying.
I have tried to renegotiate the camera distances because I feel, even though Finn's head is very small and mine is very big, I do think it doesn't make it better with how the cameras are
a bad workman blames his tools. I think you take this up with your mother.
I think Finn comes across better. Even though Finn has a freakishly small head, I want that to be known. But it doesn't look like that. It just looks, when it cuts to me, like I have a freakishly big head. It doesn't
help that there's also a TikTok dwarf who is your spitting image.
Shout out Lewis, mate. Peace.
Lewis, mate, we'll get him on at some point.
We'll definitely get him on.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be funny for him to be on here and pretend to be me and see how long it takes for people to notice.
Yeah, we should get him and Jack Whitehall to do it and see how observant people are.
So this is what is this?
We are in the ancient world. This episode we're talking about Roman emperors.
So you don't feel very comfortable in the ancient world, much like you, I imagine, at a sort of a spoken word gig.
I'm more comfortable in Rome than I am. I think, speaking about the Romans, the ancient Romans is the only socially acceptable ancient history.
Right.
If you go,
because it's the Nazis of the ancient
world.
It's
the Nazis of the ancient world. If you go into a meeting with your bank manager and you mention the Sumerians or whatever you fucking go on about, you will be denied a mortgage.
Oh, right.
Because he'll be like, well, this guy, no, I'm not giving this guy.
You can't rely on this guy.
Yeah, exactly. The great thing about ancient Persia, denied. But Rome, so in our next...
you quite enjoyed yourself researching this, I feel.
Oh, it's fucking brilliant.
It's good stuff.
It's absolutely brilliant.
It's good stuff.
Because there are very detailed accounts.
Yeah, this is as neurotypical as the ancient world gets.
Yeah, I guess, do you think it's because there's detailed accounts and you actually know what's going on? Whereas with the other ancient empires, the stuff that you spend your weekends watching documentaries about... do you think because it's basically guesswork?
Sort of, but I think it's more the influence that Rome has. Rome is one of the 4 things people learn in history.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the first off the shelf, it's the top layer.
But also, Freshers Week, you're doing a toga party.
Yeah.
You're not doing a Genghis Khan fucking horse throat singing party, are you?
Should be fucking... In my mind, that's lit as hell.
No, it's not lit. It's bad. That would end your university career.
Admittedly, hard to pick up girls, I imagine, with the throat singing.
Yeah. Well, you want to pick up a throat singing girl. That's what you want. That's not wifey material. That's Freshers Week. Freshers Week, real cum dumpster stuff.
Right. Okay. You know what? I knew that was there. And the ball, I was going to leave that ball.
No, see, you're leaving too many balls.
And you came out and you just leant back, smashed it for 6.
Yeah, that's the point.
But maybe you've been caught. Who knows?
It's always going out the stadium. It's going out the stadium every time.
You got to be careful because you might get caught at the boundary.
No, I think at this point,
dumpster. Wow,
a Mongolian throat singing cum dumpster of a girl.
The problem is that there's going to be an innocent slut listening to this, thinking, "Oh, this is nice. I'm not going to," and then out of nowhere, she gets caught straight. She's like, "For fuck's sake!"
So, do you know what it is?
Can I not have a day off?
Do you know what it is? It's because you have a moustache and glasses, and you look like a bank manager. When you say innocent slut, it just hits a bit harder for some reason. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it is about me, but also, the sentence Mongolian throat singing cum dumpster of a woman has not been said before.
Yeah.
I'm like Stephen Fry in that regard.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just enjoying the language.
Yeah, you're on the new frontiers of words to be said,
of ways
degrading women.
Ways to insult women. So we are in the ancient world. We're going to do. This is a sort of. This episode will be the context of the Roman emperors, but really in this series we're focusing on Nero, and in our next episode we will have a guest, James McCann, the brilliant comedian, James Forbes McCann,
Australian Catholic comedian with many children,
an Australian classicist, which I guess he did classics at uni. What's that? The 60s.
Doesn't the Australian nullify it? It's a bit of
That's what I mean. It's like. Oh, he's an Australian Renaissance man. What, he doesn't hit his wife on Sundays? I mean, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? Anyway, so he'll be with us for our next episode. But
we should first place this, right?
Yes. So you're more of the ancient world. So
this is after the invention of the cart.
The carts are around.
The classic cart.
Yeah.
The classic wooden cart. is around
the horse-drawn cart.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The horse.
Oxes.
Yeah. I guess so. I think I'm just saying about the cart. I don't want to add anything else onto that statement.
Okay. Right.
I don't want it's a controversial thing, but it is before the invention of the bungee jump. I don't think.
Yes, there's no bungee jumping in the Roman world.
I mean, there could be, but none have been recorded. I'm sure there's been some form of bungee jump, or maybe a way that Romans try to kill early Christians would be a bungee jump that doesn't come back.
It's not really a bungee jump if you just push them off a hill, are you? It's more just it's just pushing them off a cliff.
But is it not half a bungee jump? Is that not a proto bungee jump?
I guess so. Actually, you're right. I suppose. Could you open a company selling bungee jumps if they didn't come back? Much like it's not a frisbee if it doesn't come back, is it? It's just throwing a stick.
No, it is a frisbee if it goes back. It's not a boomerang if it doesn't come back.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
But it's a frisbee if it doesn't come back.
Right.
Much like a bungee jump that doesn't come back is just...
It's murder.
Yeah. Just pushing someone off.
When was the bungee jump invented? Now, is it actually... Because it's obviously what people go to New Zealand to do.
Right.
Because New Zealand, nothing happens. So they have to manufacture some kind of adrenaline for the people living there. So we're in ancient Rome, which is the only part of the ancient world that is sort of socially acceptable to go on about.
Yeah.
It's a fucking picnic table of incest, violence, sex, scandal.
Yeah.
But before... So... As you said, we're taking our start from this of what? Just before the birth of Christ. Christ is born in this timeline.
Yes. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Well, it's just more to explain what the Roman emperors is, because I think there's a bit of confusion. I don't think it's cleared up enough, even when we're learning about the Romans.
I didn't actually know any of this until I started.
Which feels like this is kind of some of the key stuff you should know. It was the Roman kingdom in like 500 BC, but that was when it was just some thick tribe who hadn't discovered Greek values, right?
And then Romulus and Remus.
But that didn't actually happen.
What?
That was a founding myth.
Yeah, okay.
But the guys who sucked a teat of a wolf.
Yeah, there was a rape, as ever in the ancient world, everything starts with a rape.
There's so much rape, yeah.
There's a rape, and the baby is twins, Romulus and Remus, and they're cast away.
Yeah.
And then they get adopted by wolves.
Yes, kept alive.
They suck on the wolf teats, and then...
do they grow up and then do they fight? To who? Because it ends up being called Rome after Romulus.
Well, and then Remus jumps off the walls.
Because he wanted it to be called Rheme.
Yeah. Well, there is a French city called Rheme.
Right.
But no one gives a fuck.
No, right.
I don't know if that's because of him. But the reason I'm bringing this up is I think it was on one of the Patreon episodes we learned that one of Charlie's main sexual fantasies is to be... dress his girlfriend up or boyfriend up as a wolf.
Anyone, really.
Anyone. And suck at their teats.
Right. So you kind of quite Nero-esque, actually.
Well, yes, we'll get to that.
Anyway, so Roman Kingdom 500 BC, and then they made it into a republic, which is more like a Greek view of the Senate, right? So it's run by a council of powerful leaders. That leads to a lot of instability because a lot of generals just kept taking power. Finally ending with Julius Caesar, who was the big general who ended up taking power, got assassinated. It just seemed like someone needed to take a bit more of a firmer grip. Yeah. And Augustus, who's considered sort of the goat, right, of emperors, he is sort of
there's a civil war after Caesar, and then Augustus emerges as the on the rest of history they call him the greatest politician ever.
Yeah, exactly. And then he sets up the Roman Empire basically, and ends the Republic, and sets up the I can't say it. Princeps.
Now, do you not learn Latin at school?
I did, but I was terrible at it.
Right.
So I'm thick and posh, which is what
devastating. It's part of the problem with posh shows, isn't it? Is that if you interbreed too much, they end up really thick. Princeps. Yeah. Princeps is the first citizen,
right?
Prime Minister, basically.
We were talking about Augustus, the goat, right? He has a long career. He sets up a line, and it feels like all the emperors after Augustus, they're trying to trace their lineage back to Augustus.
Well, he dies and becomes a god.
Yes, basically.
Everyone deifies him.
Yeah.
Which then means that it sort of becomes kings again, basically, isn't it?
But he sets up basically Pax Romana, which basically there's for the next 200 years, there's sort of peace in Rome.
Yeah.
I mean, the emperors are doing fucking insane shit.
Yeah, the definition of peace is not the same as ours.
But in general, it's like more global peace than there ever was in the Roman period.
But there's still they're still fucking up the Brits and the Germans and stuff.
But I guess on a bigger, there's not huge wars against other powers like Carthage or anything like that.
The Greeks aren't around at this point. The Greeks
the Greeks. To be fair to them, the Greeks
they've been put in a box. Are they retired yet? The Greeks.
To be fair to the Greeks, it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like the Oxford and Cambridge of the Roman Empire, the Greeks now. So they do exist, but now Romans go to Athens as like a way to learn more, and it's kind of like a university. So they're very much respected and still part of the Roman.
But they're on the downslope. They've done their big shift,
and they're banking on it, you know.
Yeah. They're not quite a not today.
To be honest, they're like Britain now.
Yes,
they're in that part of the life cycle.
Not today, mate. Not today.
Yeah, still. Maybe tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about the Romans is that this is in Italy, and the work ethic they have at this point is, I mean, it's another world. It's sci-fi.
The love of sexual harassment, though.
Oh no! Some things are a constant, of course. Sexual harassment, paedophilia, murder. The whole thing's like a telenovela.
Yeah, so that's there.
But also, what I find funny is that Latin, because now Latin is so closely associated with private schools,
right?
And so there is this. It's spoken, or at least it's thought to be spoken in this clipped British RP,
right?
When they're fucking Italian.
So they're like,
Vidi vici. That's what that's surely how they sounded, right?
Yeah.
Because the way we say them, Mo Massamat, Veni Vidi Vici, because there was all these like serious dramas in the 60s that British TV did.
Yeah, but they seem to be quite different people ethnically than modern Italians.
Carpe diem.
Because modern Italians are sort of Middle Eastern almost. They're like... They're kind of Jewish Italians.
I'd say they're the Jews of the whites.
Yeah. But then these guys are kind of more like, I don't know, they're like Nazis basically.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
They got these big noses, but like, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a work ethic. I mean, so after Augustus, who's the GOAT,
right? There's
Tiberius.
Yes.
And Tiberius is a controversial figure, is what we'd say now.
Yeah.
And it
gets worse though.
It does get worse. But there is this whole notion of, so Tiberius, he reigns for a while, and when he retires, which is actually, he retires to an island called Capri,
which is a lovely spot now.
It's a beautiful spot, but essentially it's made out in the Roman historians writing about this that he was essentially running Epstein's Island.
Yeah,
and he had a squadron of boys called the Tight Bums. That was their name. And this
is his retirement, though?
This is his retirement.
Right.
But then he also had a squadron of boys called the Little Fish. And what the Little Fish had to do... Now, the Tight Bums, I think you can... It's sort of, it's Ron Seal. That's what it says in the tin. Right? You know why you've been picked as a Tight Bum?
Yeah. Antifreeze.
I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
But if there's a hairy bum, then I'm there.
If there's a loose arse, then I'm there.
This loose hairy arse, count me in. I wouldn't have made it in the Tight Bums. But it's like brownies and cubs. He's got brownies is
a different word. He's got a different group for brownies.
Is a different. So he's got Tight Bums. He's got Little Fish. Now, Little Fish, right? Yeah. Is what happened. These boys, what they did is he would go swimming in his private pool in his Epstein's mansion, and what the Little Fish would do is while he's doing, I imagine, breaststroke, they have to try and suck him off while his legs open. So they're like nibbling. You know when you go to like those Chinese spas and you put your feet in a tank and your fish nibble your feet? That's what he has, a squadron of boys to nibble his balls. Have you ever wanted to put your sort of dick and balls in the Little Fish tank?
Yeah.
I imagine, Charlie, you must have wanted to do that. Yeah. So I imagine it must be quite a nice sensation to dip your junk in a Chinese spa.
But to be fair, he is retired, right?
Well, this is my point. In ancient Rome, there was this idea that if you retired, the only reason you would retire is to become a paedophile. Which is
that viewed as a promotion from emperor?
No, it's so opposite to the dynamic now, where it's much more in Italy. It's like you paedophile while you're at work.
Yeah, right.
Like you work alongside your career as a paedophile.
Like streamlined it.
You must always be. It's almost like COVID came in, changed the relationship to home working.
Work, yeah.
Work isn't as important to people now. That's the same in Italy. It's completely crumbling infrastructurally because everyone's like, well, I've got more important things in my life. Work is sort of second behind harassing young girls.
But then the civic virtues of the Roman society was like, do your work, then retire and become a paedophile.
Exactly.
Which means things run better.
So,
right.
yeah, it's a much more muscular ethic than it is now.
You're trying to go through passport control when you go to Italy now, and they've got lots of little boys nibbling at their cock, and it's like, this is what's slowing it down.
Yeah, like
this after.
This used to be like your pension would be, you'd get your pension, which was you'd get your squadron of boys to fuck.
Yeah.
So he would also supposedly he would look for unweaned babies, which is babies who have not yet been breastfed, and he would put them to his genitals as though to the breast, to see if they would suckle him as like that, I guess. Is that another one you've left? Is that another ball that's whistled past?
No, that's actually fair enough because it.
He turned these tiddlers. So he Tiberius essentially has.
To be honest, it makes Epstein look. It looks all right.
I mean, it's child's play, I guess.
It's fun of the bun.
Yeah, it makes Epstein look like
Who's
like
the least
fucking Malala.
No,
in terms of virtue,
sure she's up to something.
But Tiberius,
we'll do a whole episode on Tiberius, I think.
Exactly.
So we want to breeze through some of these.
But my point is
here.
that just how different Rome is to Italy of now.
Yeah.
The idea that paedophilia is something you earn. Through hard work.
Yeah.
Is totally not the Italy that I know and detest now. So essentially, but he, as a kind of warm-up act to when we get to Nero, Roman emperors are creating squadrons. There's such big paedophiles. They are creating a kind of hierarchy of victims and giving them sort of Brownie-esque nicknames.
Yes, but to be honest, the change from Italians doing their paedophilia in retirement as opposed to at work happens in the next emperor, because I believe the next emperor is Caligula,
who only reigns for 4 years.
Yeah, but Caligula is sort of like a synonym for madness, for depravity. He is probably historically the most famous kind of sexual.
Well, I'd say him and Nero are they're on a par with. So basically,
but Caligula's probably madder than Nero. Nero, there was more of a plan to his madness. Caligula, it feels more like scattergun.
Maybe, yeah.
So he would. He's the main shocking things that he would do, because Nero, there was like a theatre to it, and there was he was like a kind of there was a statement.
It's a shock comic.
It was it was all like a fucked up Banksy type figure. There was always whereas Caligula was just constantly raping senators' wives in front of them and stuff like that.
Well, they'd have dinner and then he'd get bored and he'd just sort of take a wife and then he'd have sex with her.
And then just bring about her hair all over the place.
Yeah. And then just carry on. But then he'd...
Sorry, what was that story you were telling me? Where were you? Sorry. I interrupted you. What were you saying?
But he'd also then review their sexual performance in front of their husbands. Which is just in terms of cuckolding senators. Yeah. So I suppose there's this, as a Roman emperor, you've got Augustus and Tiberius who are playing the game. Yeah. They're respecting Parliament, I guess is the...
But then Tiberius starts madness after he's finished. Caligula starts madness.
Tiberius retires to an island. So I guess, Augustus is like Blair.
Yeah, fine.
In that he's epochal, he comes to power, he's popular, forget about Iraq.
So not like Blair.
Not like Blair.
You just really like Blair.
No, but then in
a god.
But then amongst centrists, Blair is deified, isn't he?
Fine.
Blair's the goat.
Right.
And then everyone, you can only really operate politically in the shadow of Blair.
Sure.
Right. So Blair's Augustus. And then I guess Tiberius is Gordon Brown if he retired to go back to Scotland and have a stick nibbled by fish.
I was thinking you've really backed yourself into a corner here. If you're trying
it's
to
going
link
somewhere. It's going somewhere. No, I tell you what.
21st century British prime ministers.
Tiberius is David Cameron fucking a pig's head.
Right.
In that Tiberius is playing the game. He's not a populist.
Yeah.
Because there's a big thing about how Roman emperors, you're either... You're playing to the elites, the sort of inherent conservatism of Rome, the Senate, respecting the system, and the fact that you're essentially a dictator is you're trying to hide that, or you're outright going fuck the Senate, they're all losers. You're Boris Johnson, you're proroguing Parliament.
But that's very similar to now. Well,
that's what
America,
I mean.
Britain,
that's what I
very
mean.
similar.
So I'd say
Boris
Johnson's kind of proroguing Parliament. Remember all that madness was coming. That's all kind of like Caligula Nero-esque.
Yes, yeah.
Even though, like, Blair essentially got rid of cabinet government because he basically just forced it through with his team of advisors.
Yeah.
And he'd have like a Brent-esque
But
guitar.
he hid it because he was a PR master.
He's a spin doctor. Yeah. So that's probably what Augustus is.
Yeah.
Whereas Caligula and Nero in particular dropped the mask of pretense and just like, fuck it, I'm a dictator. I'm the boss.
Yeah. So Caligula, just completely. I think still the shocking thing is just all the most powerful people in the world, because like, Tiberius is getting just like young boys, probably slave boys, to nibble on his genitals, but it's just
you're right. That's fine, isn't it?
But the slave boys. But this is like, I guess this would be like, I don't know, Boris Johnson fucking. I was going to say Boris Johnson fucking Dominic Cummings' wife, but that would possibly happen.
May well have happened.
That doesn't shock me at all.
May well have happened.
Mostly his incestuous relationship with his sisters.
Caligula, there's a kind of rumor that he fucks both his sisters, but I think that's been disproved.
Right.
He declares himself a god in life. Now, he's related to Augustus through blood. Tiberius isn't. There's quite a funny story about Tiberius is adopted by Augustus.
But adoptions in Rome mean a lot more than they...
No, but he's also adopted as an old man. Because Augustus is looking... Tiberius is a great general before he becomes emperor.
Yeah.
And Augustus wants to secure an heir to the empire.
Yeah.
There's also Claudius, who comes after Caligula, but Claudius is basically a spaz.
Yeah, no, Claudius is really... I find Claudius' story really interesting.
Well, of course, because he's obviously neurodivergent.
So he was an ugly loser who spat when he talked.
Do you want to see my impression of Claudius?
Go on.
I'm Claudius, and for me! Because Augustus had said...
But he was a nut. He wasn't thick like that.
Well, give me your glasses.
He was like, actually...
I think you'll find... So
that is what Claudius is like.
Right, so Claudius is like this. And Augustus says, Augustus goes... Because Claudius is alive, he's like a 10-year-old, right? And then Augustus sees him, and I think maybe Claudius is his great nephew or something.
Right.
He sees him, and he goes, right, he cannot go anywhere near the emperor. He can't be in charge, right? Because he looks at him and he's like, what do you mean I can't be in charge? And he snots a lot when he gets angry. He snots.
Yes.
So he's basically a sort of mucus
and he's bullied a lot.
Yeah, rightly.
Yeah.
I think rightly so.
But which often happens in power. I guess it's got sort of like a Richard Nixon feel to him. In the sense that maybe. It's like kind of like underestimated, bides his time.
A speech impediment, and a stammer.
Right.
And so basically Caligula in my head is like Nelson from The Simpsons.
Right.
He would point at people and laugh.
Yeah.
He would get at one point there's like massive, he puts on like games, the Roman games, and they sacrifice a flamingo and the blood goes all over a senator and he finds that very funny.
Yeah.
So he's like, ah.
Yeah. He loves it.
He's just wedging people. He's got a sort of darkly comic sense.
But he was a boy
humor.
emperor as well. So he was raised to be, and that's kind of what made him so mad, is that he was just told from being like a fucking 10-year-old.
But my point is Tiberius was adopted as a man, as like a 50-year-old man or whatever. And that,
sort of like an Angelina Jolie sort of adoption, right?
Well,
I guess
is she adopting? She's adopting black boys.
Yeah, but imagine if Brangelina then adopted a 75-year-old white man.
Yeah,
so there's all those family photos. She's got lots of black and Vietnamese children.
Yeah, and then she just
got a 75-year-old black.
Just adopts Jeremy Corbyn. And so Corbyn's there with a bunch of just like Sudanese kids. And I mean, imagine Angelina Jolie just carrying Corbyn home through the press. Who's this? This is the newest addition to our family. Anyway, right. So, where the fuck were we?
We're talking about Claudius.
Well, no, we hadn't really finished Caligula. So my point is that Caligula is actually...
But we'll do a whole episode on Caligula.
Yeah, but Caligula is related to Augustus somehow. and he gets assassinated after 4 years by his Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, because that's basically, he pissed off everyone but his Praetorian Guard for his whole reign. Because the only thing keeping him in power was the Praetorian Guard, right? Who are like the SAS, but your bodyguard.
So they're the only soldiers in Rome.
Yeah.
And he basically...
And he pisses them off, and that's how it ends up killing him.
He essentially exposes the empire for what it is, which is a military dictatorship.
Yes.
And this is why the Roman emperors are the kind of archetype for any democracy that turns to tyranny, right? Because that's kind of the story that we're telling.
But it's all about Praetorian Guard. If you have control of that, you can become emperor, and that's how Claudius, even though no one's suspecting that he's going to become emperor because he's a big nerd, but he basically gives an insane bribe to the Praetorian Guard and becomes emperor.
Well, he just like lets them wedge in whenever they want.
Exactly.
Can you get up the photo of the Praetorian Guard, Charlie? Because I think in my head they're pretty cool. They got big helmets with the what's it called? What's that bit called on the top of the helmet?
Well, the Praetorian Guard, there's a Star Wars one.
Oh shit! So Star Wars, but based their thing off the Praetorian Guard. Again, this is why the ancient world and that's why the ancient world and mortgages don't really go together. So they're the guys that look after the emperor. They're sort of they're the blokes standing outside Downing Street with guns.
Sort of, but if they're the only people allowed to have guns in a city, you just control a city basically.
And also, every time that some fucking lot of smelly people were outside Downing Street going, they just gun them down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Bloody Sunday before that meant anything, right?
Yeah. So Claudius becomes emperor, and Claudius is Caligula's uncle. He's Tiberius's nephew, Tiberius' son.
But then
I don't. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Claudius is a fucking big dweeb, and somehow during that time he conquers Britain.
Yeah, and also they I don't know which emperor, but they made sure that there was no one blood relatives to Augustus alive because they were too powerful. So everyone, the actual bloodline. I think that's
Caligula kills some people.
Yeah, so the bloodline of Augustus is completely destroyed, and it's only the adopted bloodline that kind of survives.
No, because Nero's related to Augustus.
He's the
last one. That's why he's the last emperor that they talk about, because he's the last one of that line.
Right.
Anyway, so Claudius comes in and he marries a woman called Agrippina the Younger, who is Nero's mother.
Yeah. Is a big character.
Agrippina we should talk about her. She's like ambitious.
Yeah.
She's the mum. She's Judy Murray.
Yeah.
She's the ambitious mum who's always there, who's got this kind of like a nasty owl, just always watching. She's pushy.
Yeah.
She wants her son to be.
Yeah, exactly.
When Nero,
look at that,
bloody hell, a bug-eyed Judy Murray.
I wouldn't mind her telling me off.
Yeah. There is an Emily Maitlis-esque nature to her. So Judy Murray, when Nero's born, she consults, or maybe when she's carrying Nero, when she's pregnant, she consults an astrologer who tells her a prophecy that the son will rule the world, but he will.
Which was less pretentious back then to do that.
No, it's not. She's not some mad quack who's reading crystals and shit. This is normal stuff. This is like, she's not got...
This isn't the most boring person at a dinner party. This is just a standard Roman.
No, she's not a childless woman in her 30s who's decided to get into crystals as a kind of last vestige of meaning. She's not made her doorways bead curtains.
Sure.
Anyway, her chakras aren't aligned.
Yeah.
She's fucking mad. She's Judy Murray, right? She's quite a Protestant.
Yeah,
Roman.
very much so. Yeah.
This whole era is the most Protestant Rome ever.
Yeah,
is.
I found myself saying "Mama" every time I hear about that. This cold Protestant mother.
Yeah, Mama. Which is incidentally, that's what Tiberius would say to the tiddlers.
Well, that's a different story.
That's a different story. What I wanted to say also is that one of the play groups I take my kids to when I have them on a Wednesday is called Little Fish.
Okay.
Because it's in a church, and it's like 2 hours in the morning. There's loads of toys.
Are you there while they're there?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
No, I'm just saying. When I heard the term Little Fish, it's perverted my week. I go there every Wednesday with the kids. It's called Little Fish, and now I know that is what Tiberius called his squadron of aquapedos. Where were we? Oh, Agrippina. So Agrippina's Judy Murray. She finds out that when she's pregnant, that her son will rule the world, but he will kill her. And she says, well, as long as he rules the world, that's fine.
Yeah.
Which gives you a sense of just how insane she is. Yeah. And she's very scheming, very plotting.
Yes.
She's like if when Andy Murray retired, Judy Murray adopted Novak Djokovic.
Right.
And just then became his mum. I'm his mum now.
Okay.
Because she marries Claudius, who is her uncle.
Yeah, probably.
So she marries her uncle to basically make sure that Nero,
I'd hate to marry my uncle.
I can't think of anything worse. Yeah, I know. Either of the uncles, not for me. So, she's Judy Murray. She marries her uncle.
Yeah.
In the same way that if Andy Murray got crocked, Judy Murray goes, fuck this, I'm changing horses. Novak's my son.
Yeah.
And this means that Nero will be next in line because Nero is actually related to Augustus.
Right.
Which is kind of what they want to happen.
The Augustan line.
Yeah, they want that to continue.
Yeah.
So Claudius reigns for 14 years, from 41 to 54 AD. So this is sort of 8 years after Jesus has been crucified. So Claudius's favourite food is mushrooms, because that's how much of a fucking dweeb he is. And so they cook him some mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then...
And he's like, brilliant.
He's like, I love these. For these thick today. And then... and then... They at this point they always have slaves to test the food, and so is it this one or is it another one? Basically, I think at that point slaves are like, yeah, we'll kill you as well. If you're going to kill the guy, what's a slave? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just want a poison with a longer fuse. Anyway, so Claudius gets assassinated, and this brings a 16-year-old Nero to the throne in the year 54.
Yeah,
and for the first few years. Basically, his mum's running the show. Yeah, Judy Murray is running it.
Well, he's owes her a lot because she got him on the throne. So she's kind of she's driving. She's like Ratatouille, the rat driving.
I've not seen it.
You know the concept of Ratatouille. How have you not seen Ratatouille? It's a perfect film.
Right. I mean,
you've got kids as well. They'll absolutely love it. Ratatouille is going to be the best time you're going to have watching a film for kids. Go on.
I'd say Paddington's the Paddington series at the moment.
It's pretty good, but try Ratatouille. It's a perfect film.
The reason, Pete, you can't say the things I can is that you've got the energy of the dad in Paddington. If Paddington Brown's dad was saying she's an incestuous slut, innocent slut or whatever, the world would collapse.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't understand the concept of the rat.
So basically, the rat controls a chef by his hair. Right. The rat's a really good cook.
In his hat.
In his hat.
Right.
So that's sort of what Agrippina's doing with Nero.
Or Men in Black. She's the little thing in the head. Yeah. So Nero comes to power. He's 16. And his mum is sort of, for the first few years...
Which is like a period where you hate your mum the most, just 16. This is sort of like Welcome to the Black Parade, My Chemical Romance, kind of like...
Yeah, he's listening to a lot of very bad music.
He's slamming his door.
Mum! He's doing that. But he's Italian, so he probably wants to fuck her as well.
Yes, it's
confusing. Never more complicated time to be Italian than your teenager.
Yeah.
Because I think that's why so many of them steal.
Exactly.
Did I tell you that I used to work a lot of my sort of Mediterranean racial issues?
Right.
Come with when I used to work at a language school in Oxford in a summer job. So I used to be an activity leader for a big language school.
Right.
So these Spanish kids would come over, or Italian, or the same difference. They'd come over and they'd learn English at the school, and then in the afternoons I'd take them around Oxford and we'd do like things, day trips. They'd go to the colleges where the Hogwarts, whatever.
Swim in the water while I've got my cock and balls.
Yeah. So we go to the Oxford boathouse.
This is fun, trust me.
Yeah. This is what we do. What's punting? I'll show you. I get in the water naked, and you are my little fishes. But basically, every activity was at some point derailed because one of them would have stolen something from Primark.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, so what is this school? Who's this for?
This is a language school for foreign kids. They come over, they have a morning where they learn English.
And then in the
afternoon they do activities, which to them means stealing from Primark. And every time at one point I had to get a security guard's personal phone number because he was like, it'll just be quicker if I could just message you when this happens. every time they go, they call me Geen. They couldn't say Finn. Geen, when is free time? When is free time? Can we go to Primark? They were stealing things that were like 50p.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, that's probably because as teenagers they wanted to fuck their mum, but they also hated their mother.
Yeah.
So they were lashing out and they were stealing from Primark. So Nero, for the first few years of his reign, he's appealing to the people.
Right.
He's a sort of more of a populist.
He is genuinely, it's used a lot, but he is genuinely quite Trumpian. It's
totally.
a very tedious thing to say, but
yeah, it's very tedious. But also, it makes whenever that comparison's made, I'm like, and then you read about what these guys did, you're like, Trump, you can go further and harder, man. Like, get the little fish together, you know. Never mind that Gaza AI shit.
Yeah,
get the tight bums back. Yeah. Have a squadron called the tight bums. And get them in the. Imagine if Trump's in the fucking the White House press conference. These are the tightest bums, beautiful boys, beautiful bums. Anyway, the first few years of Nero's reign, it's all pretty good. Like,
he's popular
people
because
like
they
him.
didn't like Claudius because he was a nerd who the public never saw. He doesn't really have a public appearance. He was a kind of Keir Starmer figure, right, Claudius?
Yeah, but he wrote history books.
Yeah, he was like,
He was just like, writing books.
So Nero's just has a very active public kind of.
Well, Nero is a showman.
Face. Yes.
He is obsessed with the arts, with the games. Now, it seems to be in the Emperor's remits at this point that they put on, like, big games.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which I guess means they're also event planners.
Yeah.
And like I don't know.
Yeah.
The Premier League schedulers.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, they're doing like the Super Bowl halftime show, right?
Yeah. Like but that's on them to organise.
Right.
So they have to run the country, and then they also have to do the fixture schedule for the Premier League.
Or with like a clipboard going
Yeah. So that seems to be what their job is.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he's really into the arts.
Right.
We'll get to his career as an artist. That's later on. But so he's putting on games. He's spending money on things that the population can enjoy. Yeah. Rather than just sort of squinting at a book.
He was kind of the first one to really realise you could just like go straight to the people and bypass the elite. Well,
Caligula had done that a bit, famously by making his horse a senator or a consul. Yeah. But basically, he had a horse.
It's showmanship.
It's showmanship. It's like, it's Trumpian. It's Boris. It's Johnsonian. Whatever.
There's a coin behind your ear.
And the population is so thick that they lap it up. Do you know what it is?
He's juggling in front of in the Colosseum.
It's Boris driving the digger through the wall.
Yeah.
Get Brexit done.
Yeah.
And it's the journalist going, you haven't explained anything about the corruption, but everyone is so thick, they're like, he drove a digger!
Yeah,
you know, they just clap like seals, right? But he's a tortured artist, Nero. If you get a photo of him up, actually, try to get a photo of Nero up, because he's a baby face as well.
Yes.
And so what he does quite early on is he makes his own festival for when he grows his first beard.
Now, all right. So this is to celebrate the Emperor's
like his Emperor's bum fluff,
right?
Basically, is he makes this huge festival. He lays on a festival of games and processions and whatever the Roman thing was.
And then is everyone just like quick? Did you hear that the Emperor's got a new beard and everyone's running to the?
No, it's the first time he can shave.
Right.
So his bum fluff has got to the point where he's like, "This is it. Literally now, I'm going to shave it. Let's put on some games." I mean, he looks.
No way. No way.
Yeah. There's a real kind of like.
I mean, what do you mean, baby face?
Yes. Well, listen.
Come on.
I guess in the ancient world, babyface
is like an orc.
Yeah. I mean, that guy at school.
He looks Scottish.
Yeah. Hey now. That guy at school is getting he's getting relentlessly.
I mean, that lid, my God.
Yeah, it's one of the shit lids. But this is before, everyone's got a shit lid at this point, right?
God.
So it's a real incel neckbeard vibe.
Neanderthal sort of.
Yeah,
he's got that's one of the worst neckbeards I've ever seen. Christ.
Yeah, it's jowly.
It's only the neck, really.
He doesn't really have a chin. It's neck into mouth. Anyway, Christ. So Nero's just kind of screaming little rotten nerd.
Yeah.
He looks like he loves rugby.
He does look like he loves.
You can see him in like an England rugby polo.
Yeah, I've seen him in Clapham.
Yeah.
Six Nations. But he kills his stepbrother Britannicus. who is also part of the line, so a potential threat to his
esteemed general, I think, Britannicus.
Or is that Germanicus?
All right, maybe it's Germanicus.
But he kills his stepbrother or brother or whatever. Oh no, because Britannicus is Claudius's biological son.
Right.
So he's the nerd son. But when Agrippina marries Claudius, she gets Claudius to adopt Nero, and maybe because Nero's older, he gets the throne first.
Right.
So there is a biological heir that's kind of cucked completely, which he then just kills.
Yeah,
because you got to. I mean,
you got to tie
if we've learned anything from
if it's a Scorsese film, like you got to
whack that guy.
Yeah.
If you learn anything from Mal,
or is it is it like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, where Nero says, "By the way, we're going to come make you emperor," and he's like, "Brilliant." He puts on a nice suit and he walks in. Oh fuck.
Yeah. I think he poisons him as well. Yeah. I think he gets poisoned.
Classique.
There's a lot of poison going about, and it's like hemlock.
Yeah.
It's not Novichok.
And then Nero is married. Who does Nero marry? Octavia, right?
Is that the first one? Yeah. Nero marries a
political marriage.
Boring, plain Jane.
Austere.
Do they have a kid or maybe not?
She's sort of like a Rachel Reeves. What's the kind of...
how is she like Rachel Reeves?
I don't know, just like kind of...
Quite drab.
Drab.
Shit
austere.
Maybe she's Cherie Blair.
Yeah, I mean, think about that.
Cherie Blair.
That photo shoot she did.
What, with the Christmas card?
The one with her sat backwards on the chair.
What, fucking basic instinct, Cherie Blair? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Charlie, what's he on
Cherie
about?
Blair, sexy photo shoot.
I'm thinking about the Christmas card. You've seen the Christmas card. You've seen the Blair Christmas card where she's trying to pull Tony Black from starting a fight like that. That's great. I don't really. If this is proper Sharon Stone Basic Instinct, Cherie Blair, I'm not sure I want to see this.
Or maybe. No, maybe
Charlie,
not.
Good Lord. Okay, look.
No, I think it was actually a satirical cartoon that I've misremembered as being real.
I really.
Yeah.
No, Charlie, don't type Cherie Blair nude into Google.
Respect.
Listen, she doesn't not look like Lorraine Kelly. I will quiver.
Finn will have a quivering or shuddering orgasm if you carry on typing.
I tell you what, if Lorraine Kelly was Tony Blair's wife, I'm coming so hard I'm dead. I'm coming so hard I'm dying. If Blair marries Lorraine Kelly, I'm done. I'm jizzing so hard my arse explodes. Right, where the fuck are we in the timeline?
Okay, so who's Nero's wife? Let's get Nero's wife.
Octavia, who's boring.
No, but Octavia is related to Claudius as well.
Oh, I don't care. We need to talk about Seneca and Burrus.
Yes.
So Nero is 16 and his mum is picked his wife, Octavia, boring wife, plain wife. But mainly he is guided while he's 16 by these two regents in a way. You've got the philosopher Seneca,
who's kind of the only most famous Roman philosopher. Like I hear people.
Well, I get confused because I think Senecot is a sort of constipation medication.
Right, I don't think he made that.
But that must have been why they named it after him.
What? Because it
so hard your shit's come out.
But I was surprised reading this because I've heard of Seneca and he seems to be the most respected Roman kind of thought leader. But then he was the regent of the maddest cunt ever, and so it feels like. It comes across quite badly for Seneca.
Yeah, Senecot's a laxative.
So
Seneca's just shitting himself all the time.
Yeah.
Right. He's a respected philosopher. He's a senator, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
And so...
But, I mean, people talk about him still now in a way that they don't talk about other Romans.
True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future and whether you'll shit yourself. No, I've added that last bit. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. That does, yeah.
To be honest, Seneca should start using Seneca quotes as branding.
They should.
If one does not know which port one is sailing, no wind is favourable. This kind of works.
It does work. Life's like a play. It's not the length, but the excellence of the acting that matters. Yeah. So just pretend you haven't shot yourself.
Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool. All right. Well, I guess you could replace that.
Sometimes even to shit yourself is an act of courage. Again, I've changed this, but we suffer more often in imagination than reality. Brackets, except when we shit ourselves. So anyway, so Seneca's his wise advisor. He mainly keeps Nero's IBS in check.
Yep.
Burrus is, I think, the head of the Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, big dog.
Burrus is a strong man.
Yeah.
Sextus Afranius Burrus.
Yeah.
That's his name. He's a prefect of the Praetorian Guard. So,
But prefects aren't losers in Rome.
as we know them now.
Yeah. So the Praetorian prefect was kind of like...
Were you a prefect at
I
school?
was not a prefect at
Really?
school. Fuck no.
No.
Christ.
Do you know what? This is fun. The first school I went to, there was a kid who got made a prefect, and then within 3 weeks he had to go to see the headmaster, and because he had been dealing porn. He'd been dealing by porn. I mean, like FHM, Jazz Max.
Right.
An 11-year-old's idea of porn.
Yeah.
And he had to hand in his tie the way that a police officer would to hand in his badge. Hand over your badge and your gun. He had to hand over his tie. We'd been dealing porn to the other kids as a prefect. As a 12-year-old or whatever. Anyway.
That's awesome.
I wasn't a prefect.
No?
No.
Did you have any interest in it?
No, but...
You would have been a good prefect. Fucking...
I would have been like Nero.
Yeah.
I would have been hosting like sex games. I would have made the year fours my little fish.
How did teachers like you as a...
It was a complicated relationship because my dad worked at the school,
Right.
and so
you were obese at this time, weren't you? We need to put this into context.
There's two eras. There's 2 eras, 2 private schools that I got in for free because my parents worked at both.
Right.
The first one, my mum ran a girls' boarding house, and we lived in the boarding house.
Yeah.
So I was the boy that lived in the girls' boarding house. And then as I started to reach sexual
a lot
maturity...
of them had eating disorders, so you had a lot of extra food.
I had a lot of extra food. Exactly. Their plates were often left pretty full.
You're going to eat that? The one bloke.
You finished with that? I'm gonna eat that. Yeah. I was mopping up their girl dinners and really piling on the pounds. But also because there was a canteen.
Yeah.
And I could eat there for free. So I had a fry up every day for 5 years. Which will pile on the pounds. But
do permanent damage.
But then when I started to reach sexual maturity, my parents were like, this is the Incredible Hulk about to pop out. We live in a house of 50 preteen girls. We've got to get out of here.
This fat,
horny kid. We cannot unleash him on these children whose parents are paying a lot of money.
It's like a stud horse, right?
Exactly. You cannot run a successful mare's farm with a stud horse who you haven't castrated. So it was either move out of the boarding house, stud pig. Yes, I was a stud pig in a house in a house of beautiful silken mares. There was a fat stud pig reaching sexual maturity. And you know when a pig starts coming, it doesn't stop. You know that. Yeah. You know that it comes for like 2 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because I
didn't know that. How do you know about pigs?
Because I was a stud pig. No, it's because when Cameron was trying to sell our pig jizz to the Chinese.
Right. Well, he has a lot of a history with pigs. So was that at all linked?
He hadn't harvested it himself. When Cameron was a pig's orgasm can last up to 30 minutes. Yeah, there you go. Cameron,
I'd get bored, wouldn't you?
Not if you're coming for 30 minutes. Charlie,
I'll be looking at my watch.
Charlie, get that photo of Cherie Blair back up, and I'll demonstrate. No, I was joking. Please don't. No, not that one. Christ, looks like Lorraine Kelly having a stroke, and not in a good way. When Cameron was trying to sell pig jizz to the Xi Jinping,
yeah,
because Cameron was the MP in the constituency where my parents G pig jizz. Cameron was the MP in the constituency where my parents live.
Right.
He took Xi Jinping to a pub where we used to go to called the Boots, which doesn't exist anymore, but it had lots of sports people's boots.
Yeah. Photo op.
But anyway, he went on about our pigs come some of the longest, which means they have the most jizz. Which is I don't know.
I think he said. And then Xi Jinping's got a translator, and he's like,
"What?"
He's firing his translator.
Yeah, look, I don't really know the ins and outs.
But do our pigs jizz longer than most pigs?
There's not many things this country can be proud of. But our pigs will jizz longer than most pigs, which is why there's such a premium on British pig jizz.
Well, we should be slapping tariffs on that in this new world of trade wars.
We should be slapping those pigs behinds to make them jizz even longer. I think we should be tickling with their prostates. Oink, oink.
What was your second era then?
Well, hang on, I haven't even finished the first. So we left the boarding house, and because
for the women's safety,
because there was a live stud pig in me. So
there's an active cum shooter.
There's an active pig shooter ready to spill his load. Yeah. So in many ways, I have saved the lives of 50 girls. But my parents,
you're a hero.
I'm a hero.
You're like Oscar Schindler, but just
Schindler's Pig. Yeah. So then I go to the school that my dad works at.
Yeah.
And we don't live there, but it is a boarding school.
Right.
But I enter as a former stud pig.
Right.
But it's a boys only school, so there's only pigs there.
Right.
But because my dad works there, he's a drama teacher. He's a fun teacher. People like him.
Right.
He's fun. He's a bit Brent. Yeah. He's like, call me Jez. You know.
Yeah. Sure.
He's bringing the guitar. He swears in front of the kids. He's a chilled out entertainer. So immediately there's a bit of cultural capital. Whereas before I was the stud pig in a girls' boarding house. And it was essentially a time bomb waiting to explode. Yeah. Now I've got the cool dad, Brent teacher. And
but I guess your stud pig era is your Joker origin story, right?
Yes,
that's when it all started.
That is exactly it. That's him on the bus. Yeah. So
taking up 2 seats.
Yeah. So then we get to the teachers liked me, but there was an air of infallibility because my dad had such capital in the staff room.
Right.
And I remember vividly, very early on, the first term I was there, I met a teacher and he went, "Oh, Taylor, you're Mr. Taylor. You're the one we can't tell off."
Right.
And that lodged in my head and hasn't really left me, which is why...
So you're like a prince, basically. You're like this sort of...
I'm unimpeachable. I am Nero.
You're this sort of Prince Joffrey figure.
Yeah, exactly.
Going around.
It's why my whole act is a man who's never been punched. Right? It's because I went through secondary school with this insane power, knowing that it was all a farce and that I'd get away with anything. Now, in the end, I couldn't get away with anything because I was quite often given sort of detention.
Yeah.
But then at one point, the headmaster apologised to me for telling me off too hard in front of everyone.
Fuck.
Yeah.
You had them around your finger?
I had them around my finger.
That was amazing.
Anyway, the point is I was not a prefect because if I'd been given that power, God knows what I would have done.
Yeah, too much. It's too much.
We've spent quite a lot of time on my origin story.
Which is messing me up, Nero. But should we wrap? We will come to an end now.
Yeah, we should. We were going to deal with him killing his mum, but I guess we'll do that next episode because we've been talking about my stud pig.
Yeah.
Female pigs have a clitoris that is analogous to the human penis and they experience intense orgasms when they're stimulated. Well, so do some women.
Yeah. Not many, I don't think.
Not many. They're a delicacy. Right. Let's wrap this up.
So should we just do the state of play before we leave?
Yes.
Where are we?
So I'm a big fat pig and I... No. So Nero is in power.
Yep.
His mum's pulling the strings. He's a teenager. He's got Seneca and Burrus.
He's had an organised marriage to a boring woman who doesn't really...
plain woman.
Yeah.
And he's starting to rebel against his mother, who he feels is imposing on him.
Overreaching.
So she's starting to overreach.
And he's got a lot of people telling him what to do and what to think, and he's starting to find it
But he's just turned 20, and he's into this kind of cocktail, this pressurised can of a young incel with an overbearing Judy Murray-esque mother.
Yeah.
We will leave it there. Now, the next episode will be with James McCann, esteemed Australian scholar of, I don't know, fucking...
throwing beer cans at emus.
Throwing beer cans at birds. A real scholar and a gentleman. He's going to come in and we'll talk about the Nero's reign. Now, that episode's already on our Patreon, where for £3 a month you can become a truther, and you get early access to all the week's episodes, as well as a little bonus episode every Friday.
Ad-free.
Some of our bonus episodes have included...
Coney 2012. Prince Andrew Parts 1 and Parts 2.
The Costa Concordia disaster.
One of my personal favourites, the history of defenestration, which is the act of throwing someone out of a window, which has a venerable history in Prague.
It is, a fascinating topic. There's also some exclusive full-length episodes, including our history of the rise of the Nazis, which we will be picking up again at some point.
Of course. It's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. Either way, thank you so much for watching, listening, and we shall see you next time.
Goodbye.